Bonjour, Habari Saleo. My name is Daniel Adeni, a professional officer at Eclair Africa.
My name is Sinetemba Mtetwa, an intern at Eclair Africa.
My name is Paul Curry, Manager of the Urban Systems Unit at Eclair Africa. On behalf of Eclair Africa, the African Centre for Cities, our future cities, and partners, I'm excited to welcome all of you to the Rise Africa 2021 Action Festival.
Rise Africa has been growing as a platform of thinkers, doers, and enablers, committed to inspiring action for sustainable cities.
Rise Africa is about building active networks across academia, government, private sector, civil society, and the arts.
Our entry point is not based on articulating problems followed by proposing solutions, but rather on celebrating our cities as places of innovation and culture, while asking, what more can we do to make them sustainable, inclusive, and vibrant?
This festival is hosting 46 sessions from across 16 countries in Africa and the world. Every session aims to share new ideas, showcase ongoing actions, and launch new initiatives by bringing participants together to chart a new route forward.
We hope that the festival program will inspire you to commit to one or more specific actions that you or your organization will take on. As this session closes, you will be redirected to a survey in which you can articulate these actions. We will follow up on these committed actions throughout the year and offer resources, connections, and support. In this way, we are testing the idea that events can galvanize actions, and we hope that you will join us in this effort.
Beyond the session, there are many ways to take part in the festival.
Register for further sessions.
Vote for your favorites in the photo competition.
Watch a variety of inspiring video provocations.
Test your knowledge of African cities from our daily quiz.
And listen and dance to the Rise Africa 2021 playlist.
We hope that you will make all the attempts to reach out to new people and build long-lasting connections.
Before we begin, it is important to note that this session is being recorded, and that by participating, you are consenting to be recorded. All the recordings will be available on the program page after the festival.
And may I say that creative expression is vital for creating new futures for our cities. So we invite you to enter this session in the spirit of creativity and dreaming. Thank you very much.
1. When people ask me where I'm from, I tell them, I am from red dirt and green hills, endless mango trees whose small sun of a fruit is always within arm's reach, smells so sweet your stomach speaks in small roars of impatience as you sip your cup of chai waiting for meals to finish cooking. I am from the sounds of my people, languages so rhythmic you think we spoke in song, the melodies of matatu conductors waving on crowded city streets, and the crow of roosters calling the sun from behind the horizon in the village. 2. When people ask me where I am from, I tell them, I am from a country mispronounced into modernity by wandering white men, from big men with small minds who stole the spoils of our struggles with no shame or foresight. I tell them I come from those who resisted, those whose dreams defied their bullets even after their breath was stolen from their bodies. 3. When people ask me where it is I'm from, I tell them I am from a new story about this country, this continent, this world. A new tale told by new authors, unafraid to wield the pen as a small spear, our ancestors as shield, our history as armor, as we use our words to help write this world anew.
Good afternoon and welcome, and thanks to the organizers of Rise Africa for a wonderful, poetic, musical, vibrant, exciting introduction to the session. My name is Rehana. I'm a research associate at South African Cities Network, and I'm going to be facilitating the session today. So just to welcome you all into this space. And before we kick off the program and the playing of Citopoly and a background to Citopoly, to ask you to please find your own name in the participant list, hover over your name, go to more, and please rename yourself with however you want to be addressed in the session and the organization you may be representing today. So I've just done that. I've taken my surname out. I want to be just called by my first name, and I'm part of South African Cities Network. So love to see some of you doing the same, and I'm going to watch just to see who's been able to find their own name, hover over more, rename, any way you want. So thank you, Casper, Maswana Consulting. Lovely to see you listening to us today. Let's have some other people just tell us. You can also tell us where you might be joining from. Don't use the chat box. Geographer from Madagascar, Mieli, lovely to have you in the room with us. So can I encourage you all, Tom, UNEP, lovely, Citopoly from South African Cities Network, great to see you here, and we're going to be hearing from Citopoly in a minute. So wonderful, and I think more people will be joining us on the eve of Africa Day here at Rise Africa. This particular session is hosted by the South African Cities Network Built Environment Program and Inclusive Cities Program. And I want to introduce and allow my colleagues who are really the holders of the session to introduce themselves. So Siwe, can we start with you?
Thank you, Rihanna, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Siwe Ntombela from the South African Cities Network. I'm here co-hosting the session with my colleagues Rihanna and Kayla, and just really looking forward to engaging with everyone.
Thanks, Siwe. Kayla, will you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, everyone. I'm afraid that I'm actually in transit. I had to run out on an errand and I'm still just trying to get back to my desk. So I will put my video on a little later once I'm not on the street. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to get settled as soon as I can so you can have my full focus. But yeah, I'm following here.
Wonderful. So we have two Kaylas in the room this afternoon, which is fantastic. So I'm going to ask Kayla Brown. And Kayla, wonderful, please settle down. We really want everyone to feel relaxed before we're going to be playing this afternoon. So I love it that the hosts have asked us to be creative. Thanks for stepping up with such vibrancy. Kayla?
Thanks, Rihanna. So that's Kyla, and we actually went to high school together. So hi, Kyla. Nice to see you. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Thanks, Rihanna, for introducing and welcoming everyone. My name's Kayla Brown, and I work very closely with Siwe and Rihanna in the Built Environment program at the South African Cities Network. And we convene a task team of built environment practitioners, as well as other cool things like play games and do interesting research. Yeah, so a big welcome to everyone, and thanks to ICLEI and partners for hosting us today.
Thanks, Kayla, and lovely to see people making connections in the virtual space. So Siwe and Kayla have referenced the Built Environment Program, as well as the Built Environment Integration Task Team. And I'm going to now invite in the CEO of the South African Cities Network, Citopoly Mbanga, to give you a little bit more of a sense of the work that South African Cities Network does, where the work we're going to be presenting this afternoon fits in, but mostly we're going to be playing together later. Citopoly, lovely that you've been able to join us, and over to you.
Can you see me, Rihanna?
Citopoly, yes, we see you, Citopoly, and we hear you.
Okay, thank you very much, and good morning to everybody. Thanks to the two Kaylas, as well as Siwe, for organizing this. I think it's very wonderful. It's a very wonderful event. My name is, as Rihanna has said, my name is Citopoly Mbanga, I work for the South African Cities Network. Sometimes I'm called a CEO, but really I'm not a CEO. That's a title that Kayla and Siwe give me when they are not happy with me. But when they are happy with me, they don't call me a CEO. We are a very small organization in South Africa. We are part and parcel of what we call the local government family, or formally the local government fraternity. And we are a membership-based organization. Our members are South Africa's largest cities, right? Johannesburg, Mangaung, eThekwini, you name them. At the moment, we have 8 members in the South African Cities Network. We used to be 9. But as politics would have it, one of the municipalities pulled out. But hey, it happens in politics that sometimes other people are not happy. Our mission is a very simple one, really, to make South African cities work, right? To make them competitive, to make them productive. We come from an apartheid history, so our mission is to make our cities as inclusive as possible, right? Try to do away with the economic gaps that you see there, the social gaps that we have inherited, and really try to make sure that we rally them behind the call for creating an inclusive society, one that is non-racial, one that doesn't discriminate according to race, class, gender, and all of those, right? So that's what the South African Cities Network really is about. For most part, we conduct research and try to understand the phenomena and the challenges that cities are faced with. Senior managers, middle managers, politicians in the form of the mayor, deputy mayors, mayoral executive committee, the mayoral council. So we work with that entire bouquet of people that are appointed and elected officials of the city, with the aim of ensuring that they themselves have and find better ways of working with other stakeholders, notably civil society organizations, notably your corporate citizen in the form of business, and many of you that are innovatives. And Citopoly is basically framed along those lines, right? How do you get people that are working in a particular institution that come from different backgrounds, work together for the objectives of making that these cities are inclusive and are as productive for the noble objectives for which the city is. Of course, Citopoly predominantly came from the background of built environment practitioners, right? Who are struggling a bit with how to navigate the corridors of power, the corridors of politics, the corridors of competition between elected and appointed officials. All of them, of course, working with the aim of ensuring that the city does achieve what it set itself to be. And one of the things that Citopoly picked up in the process of research was that there are rules of engagement in the city. Sometimes they're respected, sometimes they're not respected. And the question is, how do you navigate them without compromising the needs of society? Because cities are cities because of people. They're not cities because there's a big town hall with big pillars and stairs that are going up to the mayor's office. Rihanna was herself a councillor at some point in the city of Johannesburg, so she knows those routes that you always have to navigate. And I must commend the team in the South African Cities Network for the creativity with which you have managed to pull together this innovative game that highlights how a city works, how it is that sometimes you have to navigate the corridors of power in order to arrive at particular decisions. And I really wish this particular session all luck. I will be here for most parts of the session, looking at how it is that you are playing Citopoly, knowing whether are you taking decisions in the interest of society or in the interest of the institutions that pay you and therefore you protect it. You know, it's a very interesting thing how it is we have unintended actions, right? Where we take decisions and these decisions are not in the interest of society. For most, if not for all, it's decisions that seek to protect the bureaucracy within which these institutions have to work. So Rihanna and everybody, good luck with those few words. Let's get on with the game. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Citopoly. I hope you're not just going to observe, that you're going to play as well.
Yeah. I will play. I will play to the best of my ability. I will be a player, believe it or not. And you know me when it comes to decisions, right?
Yeah. So colleagues, just to say that Citopoly in this form was launched last year in Nelson Mandela Bay, South Africa. But because of COVID, it's had to be reinterpreted into a virtual format. And I really want to commend Kayla and Siwe for their absolute creativity in taking that game and converting it. But maybe just to give you a little more of a sense then of where the game started, where it came from. It actually is intended to be a dissemination mechanism for a practice report that comes from built environment projects in 4 cities in South Africa. But I'm not going to say too much. Kayla, maybe we can use the video then to give people a sense of where this game has actually come from before we play it.
Been tasked with by the group and also agreed to within the South African Cities Network is to find interesting ways to disseminate research and get people engaged, and particularly municipal practitioners and municipal politicians to engage the work that we do in a way that is more interactive and more easy to consume. So one of the things that we've done on our recent report is work really hard actually to work out how we can take the findings of that report and package them into a game, a kind of board game that allows people to be engrossed almost in the material that they would find in the report. So none of that material was crafted out of thin air. It came through research process and it found its way into a game. So one of the things that the game has begun to do is pull people into engaging with knowledge in a far more interactive way and a far more playful and energetic way than would be the case if you distributed 10 reports and said, read this exciting report, there's interesting things in here. But the material has really come from the direct quotations from practitioners who are in the space and are experiencing what it means to implement built environment projects in municipalities.
So before we get ready to play the game and give you a sense of the practice report, I'm just going to give you an opportunity. I know some people did rename themselves earlier in the participant list, but maybe let's get into the chat box. Just everyone who's from a non-South African city, so outside of South Africa, just in the chat box, will you just introduce yourself and tell us where you're joining from very quickly? That would be great in the chat box. So all those who come from South African cities, just hold on for a little bit and let's get some of our guests. I certainly saw someone from Egypt, in the room. I think there was someone from Madagascar in the room. So let's allow all of our guests who are coming from non-South African cities just to tell us where they might be joining us from this afternoon, just through the chat. Hisham from Cairo, lovely to have you. Abram from Accra, Ghana, fantastic. We've got someone from Croatia, Zagreb City. We've got someone from Rafiki from Nairobi, Kenya, lovely. So great. Oh, Tom, 6 years in the Western Cape, but currently in Paris. Okay, then let's allow colleagues who are joining us from South African cities, just very quickly to tell us. So we've got colleagues from Windhoek joining from Maseru. Interesting virtual times, right? You can come from one place, join from another. So those who are joining from South African cities, just give us a sense of which South African cities are in the room this afternoon. Manon from Botswana, but studying in Cape Town. Strong showing from Cape Town this afternoon, I suspect, in the room. We've got Anthony from Msunduzi, Maritzburg. Joburg is here. Ikuruleni is here. George is here. Itiquini studying in Cape Town. Tshwane, Pretoria in the room. Nelson Mandela Bay, Casper, lovely to have you here. So welcome to all of you, whether you're joining us from a South African city, any international city that you might be joining us from, every African city that is in the room this afternoon. Really fantastic to have you here. So Jeff Bickford, who was the program manager for the Built Environment program at the South African Cities Network, in that video you heard Jeff talking about the research work and trying to disseminate research work in more exciting ways. So Kayla, maybe just give us a quick overview of the report that the game we're going to play this afternoon is based on. So I'm going to allow Kayla just to, she's not obviously going to take you through it in any level of detail, but just high level sense of where this work comes from. Kayla?
Thanks, Rihanna. Yeah, I definitely won't take you through the report in any detail because that's why we have Citopoly, so that we don't need to share details of reports or send out reports by email, but we can actually engage in a very different way, in a way that feels a lot more fun and a lot more human. And that's really what Citopoly is. As Rihanna mentioned, it's a dissemination mechanism. And what we were trying to disseminate is this report, which we did package into a more conventional publication. I'm not sure how many people have read it out there. I think we've definitely reached more people through Citopoly. But what we were trying to do in this report is to really ask the question, why is spatial transformation taking so long in South Africa? And what is it in practice that's slowing this down? So we weren't really interested in understanding the kind of technical aspects and issues around large-scale transformation projects, but rather what is happening in practice according to practitioners. So we took a case study approach and looked at 4 big spatial transformation projects. They were often presidential projects, collaborations across spheres of government with a huge amount of resources spent. And these were located across the country, and you can see here in Joburg, Tshwane, Itiquini, and Nelson Mandela Bay. And these were housing projects, big transport projects, mixed use projects. And we really took an approach of trying to understand what happened in practice according to practitioners. And what we found was that in general, these were the 4 factors which we could categorize some of the practice-based issues into. So they included leadership, rules of the institution, skills and capacity, and interaction. And these categories will become a lot more clear when we play the game. So what Citopoly is going to do is begin to allow us to grapple through direct quotes from practitioners who were directly involved in these 4 projects, and hearing from them what were the kinds of issues that they experienced on the ground that they feel ended up inhibiting their creativity and their ability to create real kinds of spatial transformation through these projects. So I'm going to stop there and allow us to use the mechanism of Citopoly to explore some of these issues further.
Thanks, Kayla. Maybe just important to say to our guests who are joining us this afternoon that the format of conducting the research was through dialogue interviews. So these were one-on-one conversations with practitioners. The intention was not to kind of test whether the project was a success or not. So that was not the intention. It was really to understand the behind the scenes story for how projects actually happen, manifest, what happens in a city when a project is being undertaken. And these were one-on-one interviews, so they were, held in a very safe space environment. And the game is really direct quotations, the exact words of not only municipal practitioners, but in some instances, community-based organizations, NGOs that were involved in these projects. And that's the game we're going to play. The consequences, so the game is made up of quotes and consequences, and Siwe is going to take us through the rules of the game in a little bit. The consequences were kind of just thought up by the team, but the quotes come from people who actually worked on these projects. So we're going to get ready now to play the game, and you're going to be taken to a breakaway room. So just to say, there will be 3 breakaway rooms that will be set up. The task when you get to a breakaway room is to spend a little bit of time just introducing yourselves to each other very quickly, and then to decide on a name for your team. So each team should emerge from their breakaway room with a team name, and to select 2 volunteers, or you can allocate in any way that works for you in your breakaway room.
Okay, I think we've lost Rihanna.
So can I just check? Can you hear me?
Okay, you're back, Rihanna.
Yeah. Okay. So just to check with you, Kayla, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back.
Yes, we can hear you, Rihanna.
Okay, sorry, Citopoly, it's giving me a message here to say my connection is unstable and I'm not sure whether I'm talking to myself. So we're heading off to breakaway rooms, get a team name, build some team spirit amongst yourselves. You're going to have to cheer each other. It is a game of chance. It's not necessarily a game of skill, but it's lots of fun. So Inga, can I just check if we're ready to set us up in breakaway rooms? And your task, choose a team name, choose 2 people, a quote reader, a consequence card reader, and introduce yourselves very quickly in the breakaway room so that you build a bit of team spirit before we start playing the game.
Sparks.
Okay, so the sparks are in the room. See where I take it that that's your team.
Yes.
And team 2, which is Sitole's team, is step aside. And we like ready to say to the rest of you, step aside. We don't need sparks here, but I'm neutral. So let's see. Kayla,
You don't sound so neutral, Rihanna.
I am neutral because the sparks might have something in line for all of us. But I just see very quiet teams there in the background. Team 3, Kayla, your team's name.
Rihanna, our name is Bougainvillea because Paloma looked out her window and that's what she could see. And we had about 10 attempts at spelling this word. This is the correct spelling, we think. Paloma did Google it in the end. So there we are, Bougainvillea.
Okay, so really interesting names coming from different parts of the system. and going to be exciting. And I trust you already, and I trust that your team conveners there told you that you should be excited and noisy, and you don't have to be well disciplined and all of that, and that you've chosen your quote reader and at least your consequence card reader for the first round, and then we can rotate it amongst the team if needs be, or different team members, and hope you all remember which team you're in. So Siwe, like everything else, there are rules here. So can you give us, oh, maybe before you do that, I'll just give a quick sense. You heard Jeff talking about Citopoly and where it came from. So in fact, Citopoly as a concept was developed like on a kitchen table and at the city's network offices. And if you look closely at those red and blue blocks in the table there, they're actually little Paw Patrol blocks. Those were the only ones we could find at a store. And what you're seeing, what you saw in the video and what you're seeing in the picture there is a team of built environment practitioners from across the country playing the inaugural round of Citopoly with homemade cards, as you can see there. That was at Earthrise Lodge in June or July of 2019, it would have been. And then Citopoly went touring around the country. So you see Jeff there. So the green box that Citopoly is being carried in actually belonged to my mum, who was a school teacher, and we used it to kind of pack the homemade version of the game in. And every time would be at the airport, so there we are at Nelson Mandela Bay Airport, people would be super curious to know what was in this box that Jeff was carrying around. And then finally, after we'd kind of taken it through all of our city members, and they kind of said this game has value, it was commissioned to look a lot more professional than our kitchen top made one. And there you see it being launched in Nelson Mandela Bay. I think it was like the 6th of Feb 2020, somewhere around there, but just pre-COVID. And it was a pretty cool event, people sitting in bean bags and with popcorn and playing the game. And then the photographs at the bottom are still when we were still kind of piloting the game. So Citopoly has certainly taken its own journey through the country. But Siwe, can I hand over to you just to tell us how we play this game?
Okay, cool. So this is really just one of those games, I need to say upfront, where you only understand it once you're really playing it. So please just be patient with yourselves and your team while we play. But basically, the object of the game is to try and build the best built environment project. So Kayla explained that this comes from the different built environment projects. So we are all going to be racing to build our own built environment projects. So in our teams that we have formed, we each have 5 blue blocks, which represent societal value, and 5 red blocks, which represent organizational value. And often these are pitted against each other. So we're going to try and build the best value using these different blocks. So the teams will go in order of team 1 to 3. And then on each turn, Kayla will roll a dice for us, and that will help us to select the cards that the card reader and the consequence reader will be choosing. So on each of the cards, the quote reader will read aloud the quote on the card. So these quotes are the ones that are taken verbatim from the report that we are referring to. And after reading the quote, then we'll turn the card around and reveal the consequence of that quote. So the consequence is read out loud by the consequence reader. So each card leads to one of the following consequences. Either the team can gain or lose blue or red blocks. So those blocks that are lost will be returned to the bank. And you can also be instructed to collapse your whole structure depending on what the card reads and what the consequence is. So when you're asked to collapse your structure, your whole tower will be destroyed, and you can only rebuild your tower from the collapsed structures blocks. So this can get a bit confusing, but you'll see how it will work in the game. So only once all of these blocks have been used, then you can begin to gain additional blocks. And once a tower is collapsed, the team will continue to lose blocks from the collapsed pile should they lose should they pick a lose consequence card. So when a team loses all of the blocks of a particular color, then you can't go into negative blocks, but you'll rather be in the next round instructed to pick from the ground 0 card. So once you get to ground 0, it's really bad for your project. So that should help you to regain your blocks and add onto your deck. So the game ends really after a decided amount of time, and we decide the winner based on the tallest combined structure. So the combined red and blue box will determine who the winner is. So we have, I think, about 30-45 minutes, Rihanna, to play. So we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, so it's 10-2 now. I'm going to suggest that we play until about 2:15 and see where we're at. Now that you've thoroughly confused us all, Siwe, with those rules, shall we just play? Now, I know that the rules said we'll play in alphabetical order, but shall we just play in the order that we are on the board? So the Sparks, are you here?
Yes.
Yes.
You guys
The
have a
Sparks
quote?
are here.
You have a quote reader. Sparks, do you have a quote reader?
You do, we do.
Is that, I take it it's you, Erica, and a consequence reader?
Yes, yes, we do.
Okay, so the Sparks are ready to play, and Kayla, can you roll the dice and just explain how the dice works in relation to the cards?
Yeah, I will. So when we played this game in real life, someone would come around to each player with a whole deck of cards, and someone would just pick out a card, and that would be leading to their quote and their consequence. But when Siwa and I transitioned this game into a virtual space, we had to come up with another way to do this. So this is what we've come up with. We have a very beautiful virtual die set, thanks to Google. And each of these die corresponds to a column or a row that, depending on which numbers you get, leads to a card. So let's do it for the Sparks. Also, I must say that the rolling of the dice responds very well to cheering. So just keep that in mind, Sparks and other teams.
Okay, Kayla.
So here I go.
Sparks, roll the dice.
Woohoo!
And we have a 7 and a 3 for the Sparks. So Kayla, over to you.
So 7 and a 3.
Okay, and Erica, you can get ready to read the quote. So Kayla, let's just...
Cool, that's good. These kinds of processes have got many authors, and I celebrate that.
Okay, and that quote has a consequence, and we're going to get the consequence coming up now.
The consequence is you've created the room for diversity in delivery and the project, but that many people involved has also showed down delivery. So we lose 1 blue and gain 1 red.
And so the Sparks lose 1 blue and gain 1 red. So let's just see their blue block moving off there.
Could be worse, yeah?
Gain a red and you've lost a blue. So step aside. Are you ready?
Yes, we are.
Here we go.
So Kapano is the quote reader there. And I think Rafiki is the consequence reader, and roll the dice. Thanks, Kayla. And it's a 3 and a 4. Okay, so Kapano, quote reader, over to you.
Leadership means that you are able to bring in stakeholders that have very different viewpoints and bring them to a point where they can agree on certain activities.
The consequence of that quote, Rafiki.
You have identified and secured buy-in from diverse stakeholders. You will gain 1 blue and 1 red.
So step aside, gain 1 blue, gain 1 red. And so I guess it's starting to become clearer how the game works. So Bougainvillea, over to you. Your quote reader is?
It's me.
Come on, Bougainvillea.
Tom. All right, so let's roll the
Go
dice.
Bougainvillea, go Bougainvillea.
Yeah, yeah. Roll that dice.
I love the spirit, guys. Okay, Tom.
The community forum was very helpful because we could identify which department is not playing its part and we could rope them in.
Okay, and your consequence reader from Bougainvillea?
Hello. You have brought the community firmly into project implementation processes and created accountability mechanisms. Gain 2 blue and 1 red.
Yeah.
Okay, so Bougainvillea gained 2 blue and 1 red. So the thing about Citopoly, you don't want to get too excited too quickly. So the Sparks, are you ready to roll the dice? And if you've just joined, I know there are people who've just joined.
Come on, Sparks.
Okay, so we've got a 1 and a 1.
It's rolling.
Okay, so the Sparks, your quote reader, Erica.
You make mistakes, it's normal, but you learn out of your mistakes. That's got to be good, right?
Yes, definitely.
The consequence of
applicable in
making
all
mistakes is?
You are constantly learning, so you gain 1 blue and gain 2 red.
Okay,
Wow.
so the Sparks gaining there all the way. And to colleagues who've just joined the call, we've already set up teams. So just observe, and then in a while we'll be opening a little bit later for discussion and you'll get a sense of what's going on. But we're playing Citopoly, a game based on real life projects in South African cities and learnings from those. So Kayla, Step Aside are ready, and Step Aside, can we hear you cheer for your dice roll?
Step Aside, we are ready.
Let's go.
Come on, come on.
Okay, there we go, and it's a 2 and a 4.
Come on.
Okay, Kopano.
I think in more than one way, the guys helped one another out with things they were struggling with. Now that's a favor and it builds goodwill.
Okay, and favors and goodwill, do they get you blocks or do they lose you blocks? The consequence.
You are able to use healthy human interaction to move the project forward. You gain 1 blue and 1 red.
Yo, it's a round of games all round. Step Aside, gain 1 blue, gain 1 red. Bougainvillea.
Well done, well done.
Over to you.
Okay, come, Bougainvillea. Big cheer now.
Let's go.
You're ready.
Let's go.
That feels lucky.
And a 4.
Uh-oh. Over to you, Tom.
All right. National gave the city the money to purchase the land. Province won't give the money to build the school.
Boo, province.
That doesn't sound good. Come
Oh.
on, province.
Oh
Doesn't
No. Lemmy, are you there?
So anyone from that team read the consequence?
The project team has not been able to ensure governmental alignment. Lose 1 blue, lose 1 red.
Sorry, Bougainvillea. So colleagues, just to remind you that this is a genuine project in the country, a project where the national department gave money and the province refused to build a school. So this is not imaginary. This really happened on a project. Let's move back to the Sparks. The Sparks, are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Yes. Okay, let's roll the dice, Kayla.
Come on,
And
come
it's a
on.
1 and a 3. Okay, so the sparks, Erica?
You need to sit down with people because people are driving what they are driving simply because it exists in their performance plans.
And the consequence of driving what you're driving because it exists in your performance plan.
You are able to initiate buy-in and action beyond performance plan. So you gain 1 blue and gain 1 red.
Yes.
So sitting down with people, sitting down with people, it pays. Okay, well done to the sparks. They seem to be on a gaining track.
Be sparkling.
Step aside. What's that, Siwe?
Love it. Be sparkling, Rihanna.
You're sparkling. Capano and
Yes,
Rafiki,
yes.
and step aside, and the team, let's roll the
dice.
And we get a 4 and a 2. And a 4 and a 2 give us...
Sometimes people disown a decision that has been taken by their own political party.
Sometimes politics. Wait.
No.
Oh,
no. No.
No.
A decision.
Going down.
Well, we just a decision that was approved at council is being disowned by the political party, and it is evident that this project will not gain traction. Collapse your red structure.
Step aside. You guys have to collapse your red structure. So this is where Siwe's rule now comes in. You will have to rebuild from the collapsed structure first. You can't gain any blocks at this point in the next round if you gain any. If you lose, you still lose. So sorry to step aside, but that structure has come down thanks to the politics. And we all know projects like this in South Africa where for some reason the political party that started them decides that they're no longer behind them. Okay, Bougainvillea, over to you.
Sorry, guys.
Roll the dice.
Let's go.
And we have a
Let's
4 and a
go.
3. And a 4 and a 3 give us a pretty long quote there. Over to the team.
On my side, the lack of intersectoral collaboration has bad consequences on the community. Houses were built, but there is crime and gangsterism. The high rate of unemployment is causing beneficiaries who were given houses to live. There's no work, there's nothing.
Okay, not sounding too good
Oh
for
my goodness.
Bougainvillea either. And the consequence there being...
And because of departments, spheres of government, and the community to truly develop and give hope. Collapse your blue structure.
Okay, so we got another collapsed structure here, and the sparks don't get too excited. So we have a collapsed red and we have a collapsed blue structure in 2 of our teams. Really, really worrying stuff, guys. I know this is painful. Let's keep going. The sparks.
Yeah. Come on, sparks. Yes, let's do this.
And let's roll the dice. It's a 5 and a 3. So that gives us, Kayla, another long quote. And this time, Erica, it says...
Sometimes you feel the friction of not being supported because of the politics, but administrators need to go beyond that. They need to look at civil society to see how they are benefiting beyond all this.
And the consequence of seeing beyond the politics?
You are able to see the need to benefit civil society. So you gain 2 blue.
Huh?
Yes,
See where you
yes,
guys
we
are
do.
seriously on a sparkling streak here. But this is Citopoly, and anything can happen at any time. Step aside, over to you. Roll the dice. Siwe is got a sparkling smile too. It's a 2 and a 1, Kapano, and over to you. 2 and 1. And what does it say?
You need to be very patient because you will deal with people who are very angry.
Sure. So dealing with people who are angry.
You are able to navigate anger to get buy-in. You gain 1 blue.
Woo! Okay,
Yay.
step aside. A bit of gain there. Even though you have a collapsed red, you're gaining 1 blue this time. Okay, let's see if Bougainvillea can do some catching up. Roll the dice.
Woohoo! Let's go.
Let's go.
Okay, guys, come now, please. We need some good luck.
Let's do it.
3 and
3 and a
2.
2. We get a 3 and a 2, and that gives us. Okay, there we go.
National Treasury measured performance by how we spent the grant.
Oh, guys, this worries
As
me.
National Treasury likes to do. So.
Oh.
We don't have any anyway.
Measurement was
We
focused.
don't have.
Measurement was focused on spending rather than the quality of outcome and positive impact on communities. It was to.
Okay, so remember you can continue to lose from a collapsed structure. So Bougainvillea, you are losing 2 blue from your already collapsed structure. So 2 back to the bank. Where they go back to the bank. Yep.
They're wanting to go back onto into the tower.
No, they go back to the treasury, Kayla. The treasury takes its money back when you don't spend it. Okay, the sparks. Let's see if your winning spark continues. Roll the dice. And we get a 4 and a 3. Okay, Erica.
A lot of projects are stalled because we don't know how to fire underperforming contractors. The JV company had problems. We had to terminate the contract and reappoint.
Okay, so what consequence of terminating a contract and reappointing?
This is too
You
real.
were decisive. You were decisive in taking action and on non-performance, but had to rush completion of the project to meet financial year deadlines. So you lose 2 blue but gain 1 red.
Okay, so the sparks losing 2 blue, gaining 1 red. Someone's saying that these are too real. That's because they come from real projects and real practitioners who did some of this work on built environment projects and experienced some of this stuff. Okay, step aside. Are you stepping up or are you stepping out? Roll the dice.
Stepping up, hopefully.
Come on.
And it gives us a 1 and a 4. And 1 and a 4, Capano, gives us.
Fingers crossed.
Where you have leaders that are neutral, they can actually make sure that the project moves forward without people having to shoot each other.
Okay, so clearly we have built environment projects where people shoot each other. Okay.
Your project was led by someone who was trusted to be an honest broker with no self-interest, and step aside gains 1 blue and 1 red.
Okay, so in terms of the rules now, you gain 1 blue, but the 1 red, you've got to bold from your collapsed structure. You don't get 1 from the bank. That's how the rule works. So did we give them 1 blue? Yep. Okay, Bougainvillea, someone posted in the chat, we need some luck. So I don't know what you're doing with a virtual dice. I know normally people kind of blow on that dice. whatever you're doing to get yourself some luck, you can do it now and roll the dice.
Let's go.
Come on.
Oh, and it's a
Bougainvillea.
4, and that gives us a
gotta be
longish
lucky.
kind of quote, and it says,
so I think emotionally this project deal with you. So I think emotional intelligence, you need to grow in that area so that you can manage people so that the project can be executed.
Okay, so these projects deal with you emotionally, and what's the consequence of that?
You use your emotional intelligence effectively, gain 1 red.
Okay, so Lamis, you've gained 1 red, and we've got about just over 5 more minutes of playing time. So let's see how the game progresses and unfolds, and anything can happen in Citopoly. So the Sparks, roll the dice.
Come on, guys.
6 and 3. And that gives us Erica.
We need to educate our councillors. Sometimes reports are very technical and it disadvantages the councillors to engage.
And if we wrote better reports.
Yay!
Yes. Well done.
You communicate in ways that help others understand. So you gain 2 red.
Yo, these guys just keep going on their winning streak. Okay, let's
Don't
go.
jinx it.
Aside. Roll the dice, Kayla.
Just making some more space, Rihanna.
Sure.
Okay, come on, Bougainvillea. Oh no, it's step aside.
It's step aside, Kayla.
Oh man.
And it's a 1 and a 1.
1 and a 1.
So Kopano, get yourself ready for 1 and 1, which sometimes equals 3 rather than 2. Okay.
Those initial projects were driven by the province, not the municipality, because it was the time of the provincial housing boards and the province was feeling strong and adamant that they were the custodians.
Okay, not sounding good for step aside. It's, yeah.
There was a lack of ability to collaborate meaningfully with project leaders in the interest of the community. We lose 1 blue and lose 2 red.
Rafiki even has done a voice adjustment to accept losing blocks. So lose 1 blue, lose 2 red from your already collapsed structure. Ouch. Bougainvillea, over to you.
Now let's go,
Okay.
Bougainvillea.
Come, Bougainvillea. Let's go.
And
guys,
we
we're
get
on
a
the way to
5
that.
and a 1.
6 is the lucky charm.
The city is very good at initiating projects. They're very bad on completing projects.
Oh my God. Oh no. No.
You didn't fully anticipate the interdisciplinary nature contestation and interdependency of the project. You lose 1 blue and 1 red.
Okay, because this is Citopoly and we have 3 minutes of playing time left and nobody knows what's going to happen. Did we lose those ones? Yes, we've lost them. The Sparks, clearly you are in the lead, but this is Citopoly. Who knows what's going to happen? So let's roll the dice for the last time for the Sparks.
The Sparks. We can do it. I believe in us.
Okay, it gives us a 6 and a 3. Okay, Erica.
Speak to anybody on an intellectual basis, on a theoretical basis, yes, everybody agrees. But on a practical basis, that's where the wheels come off.
Okay, Let's get the consequence of the wheels coming off.
You were unable to collaborate in practice, so you lose one blue and lose one red.
Okay, so not ending on the most sparkling note there for the sparkles with that last card. Lose one blue, lose one red. Siwe, let's make sure that you also ensure your team loses their blocks.
We have so many to lose. Won't miss one.
Siwe, we can keep going. You know, there must be other collapse your tower cards there. Okay, step aside.
Yes,
Let's roll the dice.
ready.
Ready?
Don't give up, team.
Roll
Don't give up.
the
Don't give us
dice.
the populator.
It's a 5 and a 4. Okay, Capano says he is ready.
Has this project been a success or a failure? What do you measure? What are the criteria for success?
Okay, so the answers to those very important questions.
You have not determined impact or outcome upfront. You lose one red, as
Sorry.
usual.
Okay, step aside. They're getting used to a losing streak. Okay, and let's do a final round for Bougainvillea.
Let's go. Let's finish strong.
Okay, come guys. I don't know if it's possible to come back, but it might be. A 1 and a 1.
So 1 and a 1, and no card at 1 and 1. Can we
Here's
roll
the
again?
extra card.
Let's roll again, Kayla.
Okay.
Let's go. Let's finish strong.
Come on.
1 and 4.
1 and a 4. That just somehow feels lucky.
Okay, and
I think a lot of it is the personal interaction between the requester and the person who's responsible to deliver or respond. Massage the system to get exactly what you want out.
Massaging the system, good or bad?
Yay!
You are developed the ability to navigate the system, gain 1 blue and gain 1 red.
Okay, so I don't think we need to do much counting here. Gain 1 blue from your collapsed, 1 red from the bank. And I think for first prize, it's pretty clear where the medal goes, Kayla. It's a sparkly win for the first team. But we might want to do some counting to figure out the second and third places. So let's give the medal there and let's do the counting for step aside. And because remember, it's the combined red and blue, but you have a collapsed tower there. You have a collapsed tower on the other side. So I'm seeing 3, 6, 8 and 2, 4, 6, 7. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yes, unfortunately.
Just by 1 block.
So colleagues, we're gonna kind of pause the playing of the game now and really open up for your reflections and discussion just on kind of playing the game, what you're learning more than the game. I think really getting back to the serious stuff about what's actually going on. So maybe just to tell you what the 4 projects were. It was Kunubia in eThekwini. It was Patterson Park in Joburg. It was Zanamvula in Nelson Mandela Bay. And it was Mabopane Station Hub in Tshwane. So all kind of fairly important, some, as Kayla had said, presidential projects, ministerial projects. And the quotes, are not specific to any one of those projects. They come from across 4 different cities, 4 different sets of political leadership, 4 different sets of administrators, but many, many overlapping themes. So really want to open now to anyone who wants to reflect on playing the game and what's coming up for you as we're playing the game. So just feel free to raise your hand, your virtual hand, or just post in the chat if you want to speak, if your virtual hand is not working, and I'll be more than happy to invite you in. So maybe just let's just use the chat box to start with. Just kind of having read those quotes, don't worry too much about the consequences, because the consequences are there for a game, okay? And as you can see, this issue of balancing value for the organization versus value for broader society. But maybe just in the chat box, if people can post one thing that the game is bringing up for you. So just post into the chat box one thing that's emerging. So Sean has got politics and admin. Okay, so Erica's saying triggered a conversation or a change. Okay, so Marina, I'm going to invite you in to start with. Can you maybe just lead us in your reflection on how real some of this feels, having been in local government before?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Yeah, like I said it as a joke, it's too real, but it is actually, because a lot of the quotes that I read, I was like, wow, this is so applicable in any local government scenario, just because I think there's often that divide where you have these very laudable ideas floating around at a very high level experience with a handful of people that have these amazing ideas, but then, as that quote said, cities are great to think of ideas, but the implementation and completion is often questionable, because you know it's politics that have to go hand in hand with commitments that have to go hand in hand with you know what's actually viable for the community. So I think a lot of the time there's this disjoint between, oh, let's have this amazing save the world idea, but actually we found out it's not implementable. I think there's that, you know, that struggle that happens a lot at local government level.
Thanks, Marina. So colleagues, I really want to open up the conversation. And I think someone asked a question around whether playing the game has led, I think, Erica, it might have been you. So Erica, can I ask you just to elaborate on your chat submission?
Sure. It is actually, because you've played it with a few different teams now, because I can imagine definitely, like specifically your outcome, defining outcomes beforehand. Getting that card, I reckon you would learn that very quickly. So is there an example that you've seen where playing the game has initiated a change or a conversation or something? Be really interested to hear.
So Kayla and Siwe, do you want to try to answer that? So I mean, I think, Erica, the important thing is just to indicate that when we launched the game, it was 3 weeks before COVID. And we had intended to go on this big roadshow with the game into different municipalities and really play it. And we were hoping to have politicians and officials playing it together and really just opening up. I mean, it really is meant to be a conversation starter about reflecting on our way of working. Unfortunately, you know, we went virtual, we've played a number of sessions virtually, but it's been very difficult for us to track. Certainly when we played it in Nelson Mandela Bay in person at the night of the launch, at some of the tables, so I mean, it was this really interesting experience, because we had like these bean bags and we showed some of the videos, and then we headed off to tables and we played and people had their popcorn, and then it was like, you know, dinner is served and nobody, there were I think three or four stations, if not more, but not a single table did people get up. You know, normally how at government functions, the minutes it's like dinner is served and everyone's rushing to the dinner station. When we played it in Nelson Mandela Bay, that we literally had to say to people, like, the dinner is now getting cold. So it felt like when you were in person, there was a lot more debate. There was a lot more reflection on the quotes that were coming through. But whether it's actually changed practice, I doubt it. But Siwe and Kayla, do you want to reflect on that question at all?
Yeah, thanks, Johanna. It's a really nice question, Erica. I mean, I can't think of any concrete examples, but I think when we played in person, I think in a way, even the act of playing the game is a change in practice, because it's not possible to get, for example, kind of your line department, local government officials to sit around a table with the mayor or a city manager and talk about how the political administrative interface is not working in that city. It's just not done. But when you introduce it through a game and you kind of take away the blame, it's a little bit less kind of direct. You're able to talk about it in a more generic way, even though there are very concrete examples, often from the very city that you're from, maybe from a project that you worked on even. I think it allows you to shift practice in that way and actually start to have these conversations across departments, across spheres, and across the political administrative divide. So that's been quite interesting as a tool. And taking it across the country, we kind of just started on like the Citopoly tour. We were starting to see that, and that was super cool. And now I guess doing it virtually, we're playing it with an even broader group of people, because here you've got like civil society and people outside of government. So that's also interesting.
Siwe, any additions from your side?
Nothing extra to what Kayla is saying, but I think just in terms of the actual like playing the game, I think it's opened up kind of the minds of the practitioners that we convene. So Kayla mentioned the built environment practitioners. So they were the ones who nominated these projects in their cities. And I think what this has showed is that all of these issues are not unique to Nelson Mandela Bays and Mvula, but it's more of across governments, across cities, where all of these issues, are hindering built environment implementation. So I think just to open up people's minds and start the conversation around these issues has, for me, I think helped us to start seeing kind of an impact even in the way that people look at built environment projects, as it's not just about the physical product, but how you get there and the process and who's involved in participation and all of that. So I think it has kind of helped for us to start this conversation, but definitely would have had, I think, more impact, Erica, if we were able to physically go in cities and have people engage more with this work.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Paloma to come in now, and then Kyla, I'm noting your hand after that. But Paloma, your reflection on lack of intergovernmental alignment in the chat. Can I ask you to just open up that conversation a little bit more?
Well, something that became clear from the game that was that a lot of projects weren't done because there is this not coordination between the different levels. So I thought this was interesting, and more in an environment like South Africa, where there is a lot of, I was reading this book on Diepsloot actually recently because of my thesis. And then in one of the chapters, it was showing how it was so many different institutions and the government and projects that couldn't be done because there were other, some levels of the government focus on certain things, and then the investment is only for certain kind of projects. I thought it was really, it just feels so not coordinated and complicated actually to put all these institutions into place that, okay, we are going to do this, and we have, I was actually thinking about this because I am an urban planner, and then I was thinking how to have like a plan, but where many institutions come and then, but then it obeys this plan, how can I say it? following this plan. So it's not like one institution can come with their own, okay, I'm going to work on this, but rather come to this kind of center where, okay, you can all work in whatever you want. There are these projects that we can do, and then like maybe do it in a more coordinated way instead of like everyone doing their own. Well, I don't know. I don't know if this is the solution, but then from the game, it came out again.
So Paloma, I mean, there is a move in South Africa now to talk about something called a district development model, which is really trying to align different spheres of government, but even that model in itself remains quite contested. But lovely to have you. And please, let's keep going in the conversation. Kyla, you've got your hand up. Kyla Hazel. Okay, whilst we're waiting for Kyla, Sean, I wanted to take you in because I think you're, so Kyla's having an internet issue, but let's take Sean in the meantime, and then we'll come back to Kyla, because I think you've again talked about personal experience at community level. So Sean, do you want to open up what you've put in the chat a little bit more?
Yes, thank you. My experience working in the community here in Sedgefield, which falls under Knysna municipality, what I found was not so much the interface of administration and politics, actually. It's more the lack of appetite from the political or the politician to actually engage with the community in a kind of apolitical way, to put it, you know, for a better word. But obviously, it's difficult for a ward councillor to be apolitical. But at the time that we were doing the project, we established an advisory forum that would be the voice of the community. And he wasn't very akin to the idea, even though the ward committees wasn't established, because that was at the time of, they were just newly, you know, into power at the municipal and ward committee level. So in his view, there was a kind of a conflict between what the advisory forum was about and what the ward committee, even though the ward committee wasn't established. So, but this project was essentially, it's what's called Building Healthy Communities, and essentially it tried to develop a conceptual and theoretical framework for community development that is bottom up, which is basically a new kind of approach. And what I found was that there was a lot of tension between the politics and even the community, which then also filtered through to the municipality, then pulling out and practically sabotaging the project. So yeah, that was one of those things that I can relate to this administrative and political interface challenges that we hear of in this case studies.
Thanks, Sean. And I mean, I really think that those, you know, reflections from a community perspective are particularly important. I'm gonna take Kyla, then Paloma, and then I want to open up a little bit more for Marianne and Miali around some of the process issues. But let's take Kyla.
Hey everyone, I hope my internet's not going to drop out again. Yeah, firstly, just to say, I really commend the team that's worked on this game. I think Siwe and Kayla and everyone else who's been involved, sort of having converted your research into a game in this way, I think is really meaningful. It's innovative, and it will mean that it has a reach far beyond the usual audience. And I'm super interested to hear how you've been kind of targeting who you're playing it with and trying to bring different people into the room to play it together. So I work as a popular educator for Indifuno Kwazi, an NGO in Cape Town. And this sort of approach, I think, of using play to disarm people who would ordinarily see themselves as in somewhat oppositional positions, I think would have huge potential in our work as well, where we are working with communities and activists. But part of the important work is around learning to also understand how the political and administrative bodies function and what kind of obstacles they are facing, so that we can also be able to kind of target our activism better, or see where perhaps we are going at the wrong target altogether, or maybe with the wrong approach altogether. So I mean, I think this could also be done in all sorts of sectors. I mean, we could have a game like this around problems that arise between NGOs and communities and activists just in itself. But yeah, from a popular education perspective, I'm super interested in hearing a little bit about the game development and how you took a research report and kind of ideated the mode of play, and then also with the digitizing, because I think having to bring this kind of thing online is really tough, and you guys have done it in a very clever way. So I'm quite interested in the thinking process that went into that and who was part of it. And then secondly, I'm really interested in whether people will be able to access this game to play in other spaces. So for example, would we be able to access it and play it as part of the land and housing or occupation activist schools that we facilitate in Cape Town? And if yes, one question is whether you have a set of kind of prompting questions for discussion that accompany these different quote and consequence scenarios, or whether you've found that with the audiences you're playing with, those discussions emerge quite naturally without needing the kind of guiding framework of a set of questions.
Thanks, Kyla. Let's take Paloma and then I'll answer those questions and then move to Marion and other colleagues. Paloma?
Yes, I just wanted to point out from what Sean said, the level of party, the influence of the parties in when there is citizen participation or when it involves talking with communities. It's very strong here in South Africa. I realized that I was researching a little bit on the taxi industry here. And then there are a lot of, how can I say, interest regarding the parties in order of how to manage certain issues that I thought that was quite interesting and quite strong here in South Africa. I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Paloma. You heard Citopoly say right at the beginning that I was local government, I suppose you would call me politician/elected representative, and for my sins I had the portfolio of transport. So I've had a lot of direct experience with the taxi industry in particular and the challenges that go with that. But maybe Siwe and Kayla, do you want me to start off with the ideation in relation to Kyla's question, and then you guys can talk about the migration to virtual?
Yeah, thanks, Rihanna. That sounds good.
Okay, so Kyla, thanks for your positive feedback, and certainly hope that the game will find application, and that also that people will kind of take it on and make it their own and find different ways of working with it. Because I think, like, whilst there are rules and so forth for how to play it, it doesn't have to be done like this. But just by way of kind of when Jeff and I had completed, so it was a fairly long process of, firstly the practitioners in the cities indicating which case study areas they wanted us to look at, then going in and interviewing the practitioners, transcribing all of those interviews, beginning to pull out common themes that were coming through and the quotes that kind of lent themselves to the common themes. And then, Jeff and I sitting and saying, okay, like we could write up this report, but we know how busy people are. And, what's the chances that people are going to read another report? And then we started to think about, what if we found a creative way to disseminate the research and the report? And actually, I think it somewhat started with a conversation with my daughter, who was studying at WITS at the time, and she was studying film and television. And she was actually thinking about, what if we did this as an embodied game? So it started off as a conversation about an embodied game where we'd have people kind of stand and move. And then somehow it really just evolved. And we sat one day at the South African Cities Network offices, and we pulled quotes out. And then we said, what if these quotes had consequences? And that's why you see that some of the consequence cards are not always what you'd expect either, that there are some kind of almost wild card consequences. But I think it was really about, honing in on the extent to which municipal practitioners are internal in their orientation as opposed to external community-based, the extent to which the rules of the institution are influencing behavior, that sometimes we're forgetting very basic human engagement and interaction. And then I think issues of leadership did come up as fairly important. And so it was a fairly organic process of not really knowing what we were doing. And that's why you see that the kind of pilot of the game was really like homemade cards, some board blocks, and then running through different cities and saying, if we did this game in a better produced way, would it actually be useful to you? And the resounding answer to that question after the first round roadshow was, yes, please do, because it is a conversation starter more than anything else. But then Kayla and Siwe, maybe you can step in and talk about how we actually reached the point where we made the game fit for virtual.
Okay, thanks, Rihanna. I'll let Siwe come in now. I also just want to add, I think what was kind of the most important concept of the report and of the findings was this tension between societal value and organizational value. And what we've been really grappling with is, how can you have a city that's compliant, it's meeting its targets on paper, it's getting kind of mostly clean audits, but when you look around, spatial transformation is not happening. So what then does that mean if on paper everything's going according to plan and people and departments are performing? So the organization is doing well and is kind of thriving and meeting targets, but the society around that organization, you're not seeing the effect. And it's this idea of kind of malicious compliance that when it's enough to kind of to tick those boxes and reach those targets, but that's not actually translating into anything meaningful in terms of what we need to be doing spatially. So I think the manifestation of this game into Citopoly is a nice way to visually show that tension and to really feel that tension as well when you're playing the game. And of course, yeah, this idea that some of the consequences might be good for society, but might be bad for the organization. And what does that mean for a spatial transformation project? But in terms of translating this game online for a virtual sitting, it was really hard. Siwe and I were going to actually just outsource it. We were going to run like a competition for young programmers to put a game together. But then Siwe and I had been using this platform a lot called Mural in our engagements, and decided just to kind of play around with what it would mean to do this thing on Mural. And I think it kind of works. It's not perfect, but I think it works. Siwe, what do you think?
I think it works, Kayla. I think we did okay. I think just one thing to mention is that it had to be, I don't want to say quick and dirty, but just really quick and simple for us, because we obviously aren't gamers. We aren't technically kind of inclined to be doing this, but we really had to kind of urgently translate this work in the rush of like the lockdown and us having to continue to work, and had to find a way of continuing to do this. So even with, we really just wanted to replicate the game, but also the atmosphere that we felt when we played the game physically in person, with people interacting and being very competitive and cheering each other. So yeah, it was really just trying to find a space where we could have the dice like the Kayla has found on Google, and having to bring these cards onto the mural boards in a way that can help us to continue to get to the outcomes of us getting these conversations going in the space. But yeah, just on what Kyla was asking about how we identify basically people that we can play this game with, I think that's a really crucial question that we're also trying to grapple with now, to understand that there's people outside of the local government space, which is where we kind of really focus and target this, but really trying to find other local organization, even businesses, people who are part of making built environment projects happen. I think we need to bring them in more intentionally to play this game with different people across all sectors of society playing together. I think that's what we really got in Nelson Mandela Bay when we launched it. And I think it's something that we need to pick up, especially since we are playing virtually. But yeah, really thanks for that, Kyla.
Thanks, Siwe and Kayla. So I want to bring in. I think it's there was a question. I'm just trying to find it on the chat, but I think it's Marianne. If I'm right, Marianne. If you're still here, would you like to come in? It was really about how we can encourage, more innovative, creative ways, not just with this particular piece of research, but overall. Would you like to come in?
Yeah, hello. Hi, everybody. This is Marianne from Ghana. Hello.
Yeah, lovely.
Hello,
We can hear you, Marianne.
me?
You can go ahead. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yes, the game brought to mind how we can get people from the local community as well as from government to understand issues that are happening, especially in the local communities, especially when they want to bring in policies and enact policies and all that. I realized that it's mostly top down, where everything is planned and then it is sent to the local community. And then the communities, because they are not part of it, do not even understand what is going on. And so there's not much of a participatory kind of work. So it is difficult for them to understand what they are bringing in, for them to also comply. And there was a lot of difficulty where sometimes the government will have to bring in the police to ensure that they comply. But in this situation, like the game, it helps you to understand that if you don't do this, this is what is going to happen. It's just theoretical. It is not practical. So you need to bring the theories down to earth so that the people will also understand the theory to be able to take it up. Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne. Miali, I think you posted quite an exciting comment, taking it kind of out of the South African context. So if you are able to come in, it would be lovely to have your voice.
Hi, everyone. I was just talking about the participatory mapping, because here in Madagascar, we use that. It's a pretty common approach that we use during a project PEP. We bring all the stakeholders, key stakeholders together to work on a map to identify either its problems or solutions, and most of the time we tend to separate the stakeholders in categories. For example, one session for the government entities and one session for the community-based stakeholders. And I think that this game, bring up the idea that that's not the way it should be, but we should instead bring everyone together. And yeah, that was just my comments. Well done. This game is just genius.
Thanks, Miali. So, colleagues, one of the things that as we've been doing this work, we've discovered that even where individuals in a system might be well-intentioned and want to work with communities and want to kind of bring in better practice, that often the way in which institutions are organized, firstly, as Kayla has said, very legalistic, very audit-centric, mitigates the rules of the game, the rules of the institution mitigate against people being creative, being innovative, and involving others. So we commissioned another piece of work called The Rules of the Game, and I think it might be useful that we just share with you very quickly a short video that kind of summarizes what we found in our work on Rules of the Game. So Kayla, if you are able to bring up the Rules of the Game video, that would be great.
Rules of the game. What rules govern urban development practitioners in your city? Municipalities are governed by different rules, both written and unwritten. Written rules include the plans, legislation, and frameworks that guide development planning. Unwritten rules vary and are created by political pressures, personal relationships, intergovernmental hierarchies, and financial pressures. Together, they determine what gets done, and they shape the municipality's institutional culture. The Municipal Performance Management System incorporates these rules and is meant to measure and improve what city officials actually do. Good performance is rewarded in this process through bonuses, but how do we measure good performance? On paper, cities may appear to be performing, but we know that development projects are generally not achieving the desired outcomes of spatial transformation. This research tries to answer this question by asking city officials themselves, what's working and what's not. Ideally, a performance management system works by setting goals for the organization and goals for individuals that match these organizational goals, collecting and analyzing information about whether goals were met, and then using this learning to improve performance and future planning. In reality, municipal performance management is more complicated. Local government is a very complex place with multiple and often contradictory rules which make performance management challenging. The IDP is intended to be one of the central planning documents in a municipality, but there are different ideas for what should be done because of the many demands from diverse communities, councillors, and other spheres of government. There is often not enough budget to fund everything in the IDP, and prioritization becomes difficult. Sometimes politicians ask officials to do things that were not included in the IDP. Municipalities also get money from other spheres of government, which come with strict performance conditions. Officials' individual goals should contribute towards organizational goals of the IDP, but not everyone shares these goals. Often, only senior managers do. People focus on what is on their scorecards, but a scorecard can be different from the IDP goals and instead can focus on administrative tasks that are easier to achieve. During a year, managers can reduce their targets to ensure that they are easily met. And very rarely are performance records actually used for improving practice or future planning. Some initial ideas for how to improve the performance management system include getting all departments and spheres of government to work together by rewarding collaboration, aligning departmental and individual performance to the goals of the organization, establishing a shared vision and clear approach to how communities' lives can be improved. Performance reporting should contribute to officials learning and improving together. Of course, municipalities have limited resources and cannot do everything at once. But all employees should be working together towards clear goals that improve the lives of people in the city.
Thanks, Kayla. So there have been a couple of questions in the chat box, both around whether we can share the game as well as the video links. So Kayla and Siwe, I'm going to hand it to you to take us to closure, as well as some links for people to do some feedback on the session. But maybe if you can just respond to the request of, is it possible to share the game? And if people want more information, what's the best way? And yeah, and then also if we could just move to giving people some time to complete the feedback questionnaires.
Okay, thanks, Rihanna. I'll go and then see we can close. Yeah, so this, just to give you some context, this video was another project which focused more on performance, the performance management system, which was really a result of this initial practice report, where the rules of the institution was one of these factors that just kept coming up. So we wanted to explore more what actually determines the rules of the institution, and the performance management system is one such structure that is, in our view, is actually perpetuating this kind of cycle of malicious compliance, where the priorities of the organization are favored against those of society. So all these pieces of research kind of contribute to a similar theme and a similar message that we're trying to share, and we're trying to get people both within government to kind of talk about what's going on in practice, as well as share with people outside of government, so they know how to navigate the system and they know what's going on when trying to get things done and trying to interact with government. But thank you so much to everyone for being really good sports and going along with a kind of less traditional session. It's been really great. We are always happy to share this game. So please get in contact with us. Sorry, I'm just going to mute Casper. I'm going to put my email address and Siwe's email address in the chat, as well as some other links to more of our work, our website, where you can find these videos, where you can find other research projects we've done. Siwe's done an awesome project called the Visualization Studios, which is even more creative than what you've seen today. So all of that's on our website, which I'll share here. And then I'm also going to put on, oh, thanks, Siwe, you've put those links in the chat. I'm also going to put in just a feedback link from ICLEI, from the organizers. They've asked if you could all please just fill out those feedback forms. And there's also an opportunity to rate the session. But thanks so much to everyone, and thanks to ICLEI for hosting us. It's been really cool. I'll hand over to Siwe to close.
Thank you, Kayla. So I've been trying to kind of share some of the info that was requested in the chat with some of the links, but Kayla will also share our email addresses. We would really love for more people to be playing the game, actually. So please do get in contact with us from the details that Kayla will share, but it will also require us to kind of do some more refining. Someone was asking about guiding questions for the conversations that happen after the game. So I think we'd definitely be open to doing more of that. I think there's a lot of value in us sharing this work, especially across the continent, where we all kind of experience similar variations of kind of the same issues, but really just wanted to thank everyone for indulging us and playing this game on a Monday afternoon. There is a lot of kind of work and research that we've done and tried to communicate it quite visually and in an engaging way. So we really want to encourage more people. If you want to play and share the game, please do get in contact with us. And really just a very big thank you for participating and for all your incredible inputs and insights from wherever you're joining us from. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Siwe and Kayla. So colleagues, we're really going to ask you just to please complete the organizers' forms just so that they can know, whether you derive value from the session. But on behalf of the entire SAC and ICLEI organizing team, to thank you for 2 hours of your life that you've chosen to spend with us. Trust that something from the session will help to shift practice where you come from, and look forward to the possibility of post-COVID playing this in person with you. Stay safe. Thank you for joining us. And we're really, really grateful for your participation, your inputs, and your guidance.